We're at a local music studio focused on an upcoming beach music event. We'll tell you all about it coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're in Quinby, South Carolina at Bradley House Studios. We're focused on the Long Bay Symphony's Legends and Beach Music Concert to be held this Sunday at 7 p.m. at Myrtle Beach High School. And this morning we're visiting with South Carolina's Ambassador of Music, Bill Pinkney. Bill, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
It's a pleasure, Greg.
Incredible opportunity to highlight your life this morning, to think about everything leading up to this weekend's event, the big show on Sunday at the high school, and to think of all the legends together, but particularly to have the opportunity to highlight you in your life as one of the original Drifters.
Well, this is one of the things that I've been waiting for. You know, being a native of South Carolina, and these big things just keep on happening in our state. Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that. You grew up in what part of South Carolina?
Well, I grew up in a little village there in Sumter County known as Dazzle, South Carolina, about 8 miles north of Sumter.
So when folks think of Sumter, they think of a lot of communities. Are there many communities like Dalzell when you travel throughout the state? When you travel throughout the state, do you think of being back home?
Oh, yes. Well, you know, everybody gets homesick sometime. And I've traveled from coast to coast and been doing it now for like 50 years.
And you joined the Drifters. What year, Bill? I hate to put a date on that, but I know it's...
Well, I didn't actually join the Drifters. We organized the Drifters back in 1953.
Okay.
Clyde McFadder and Thrasher Brothers, and of course, myself. And I'm the only surviving member that is still left from that time.
And there were how many brothers there?
2 brothers,
okay.
Gerhardt and Andrew Thrasher, along with Clyde McFadder, and of course,
the 4 of y'all.
Yes.
Just 4 of y'all.
Later on, we got a guitar player to join us by the name of Jimmy Oliver.
Is that right?
Yes.
Listen to your voice. As I sit here and listen to that, well, you think about, someone will say, Greg, you've got a great radio voice, but this is nothing like that.
Well, you know, growing up in South Carolina and watching my mother on the church choir, she was a choir leader, of course, and I always sit back and look and wait for her to start singing a song. And when I listened to her sing, I said, you know, even though I was just a kid, I said, I want to sing like that, you know.
Absolutely.
And
did you begin
she was a role model for me, Mom.
She really was.
Oh, yes.
When you think about inspirations in your youth and you think about folks who encouraged you to go on and to form the Drifters, for instance, had you been involved in any other small bands growing up or singing in the neighborhood? Or?
Well, before we started the Drifters, you know, I'm a veteran of World War II. And I was honorably, I enlisted. I wanted to be a soldier so bad, man, and not knowing what military was all about back then, but I loved the uniforms. And I used to love to see the soldiers get out on the field and drill. And, you know, Dazzell, South Carolina, that's where Show Air Force Base.
Right.
And I used to go around with my bigger brother at Fort Jackson. And I used to see those soldiers just drilling, man. I said, oh, boy, one day I want to do that, you know. So when I got 17, I enlisted with my parents', you know, permission, because you had to be drafted back then or either 18 years old.
Right.
So I went in a year early. And just to put on the uniform. But it was more exciting than that after I got in there. Immediately after basic training, I was shipped overseas.
Is that right?
Oh, yes, yes.
Where first?
Well, from Fort Jackson to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and from Fort Bragg, North Carolina to Little Rock, Arkansas, Camp Robinson.
That's amazing.
Oh, yes.
And you traveled overseas. That would have been in the 40s.
During World War II, yes,
right?
in the early 40s. You know, 1943.
That's amazing.
43, 44, 45. I just honorably discharged after the war in 46 with the honorable discharge. And being a little bad kid running around the house, I guess the Army taught me something, because I got an honorable discharge, not a D. I got a dishonor.
Well,
so, you know, it was exciting, and now I'm glad about it. You know, I served during the Normandy invasion. You know, I got went through 4 battles, and I got a Presidential Citation Award with 4 Bronze Stars from President Roosevelt.
Is that right?
Of course, right at the end of the war, you know, President Roosevelt, he deceased, he died, but Vice President Truman, he carried out the orders, and he's the one that the nation.
Bill, was there any singing going on while you were in the military?
Gospel.
Yes, yes.
I had a group called the U.S. Friendly Five, all military.
The U.S. Friendly Five.
And we worked with the chaplains, you know. Now, this was before we went overseas. In the States for the first 5.5 months. We did singing, doing our basic, and after we got overseas, we sang something before we got into action.
So you were able to, and that would have been a great motivator for the guys. Yeah.
Well, yes, you know, and just like I say, you know, I had some real great experience. I'm not saying that it was so great until I enjoy it, but during the war, I had some great experience there. Being on DS service attached to the 101st Airborne Infantry. That's how we got caught up in Bastogne. In the Battle of the Bulls.
In the Battle of the Bulls.
Yeah.
Golly, just hearing those words denotes a lot for a lot of viewers. I'm sure either relatives or themselves or their children or their parents, having had that experience being over there. That must have been amazing.
Well, you know, the only thing that my parents did for me, because they hadn't heard from me for quite some time, I tried to write them, and then by the time all of the letters were scratched out, by the time the words were scratched out on that, then, you know, they really couldn't read what I was going through. And that's where the military worked. They didn't really want that because people back home would worry about their sons.
I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure.
But you know what? Getting back to your question about motivation, I used to watch my mom on the choir singing. I said, one day I'm going to do that. And I think that's what inspired me to be a drifter.
Your mom?
Yeah.
She's the inspiration?
Yeah, because, you know, when I was singing that, I had no idea that I would become a drifter, you know, or be a recording group. But I just wanted to sing. It got into me. And I was real spiritually inclined, you know, singing gospel songs. And also played sandlot baseball back at that time. And I got with the Negro League, the New York Blue Sox. I did a little bit of that, too, played baseball. And, you know, first one thing and another. But I got a chance to join Clyde McPhatter doing battles of gospel songs in New York. And that's how I got to be a drifter, because Clyde McPhatter was a member of the Dominoes. Billy Ward and the Dominoes. But when his contract ended, Clyde wanted to start his own group. And that was right up at Atlantic recording line because they was waiting for Clyde.
Right.
So I just happened to be one of the members that was picked. And we got the group together. And one thing that Clyde said when he went in the service, and we traveled around with Clyde. We did great recordings. Several hits, you know, with Clyde McPhatter. It was Clyde McPhatter and the Drifters. Clyde McPhatter was drafted. So after we did so many hits, so many hit records. So when Clyde was drafted into the service, Clyde said, Bill, I don't know if I'll be back or not, but I'm going in service. He said, see you when I get back, and everything, I'm dumping everything in your lap now. You are in charge. So when they told me that was right up my alley, because I always wanted to kind of like be a leader.
Right.
You know. Right. That's why I joined the Army, because I just wanted to do things, you know. And I met a little kid, he was about 16 years old at that time. His name was David Boyne. We call him Little Dave. Well, now, we had recorded, but he was, oh man, he was an idol, Clyde McPhatter. If you would put him in a room and you didn't see him, you thought it would be Clyde. You would think he was Clyde. Now, what made it so good for us, so many hits that Clyde had recorded with the Drifters before he went in service had not been released. As these songs came out, as Atlantic kept on continuing to release these songs,
right,
Little David just fit right in. Because they thought that he was Clyde McPhatter.
Right.
He sounded just like him. You know, he sounded just like him. And that's how the Drifters got started from gospel, because Clyde McPhatter had a gospel group. The Thrasher Brothers had a gospel group. I had a gospel group called the Jerusalem Stars. You know. So Clyde looked for singers. When Clyde looked for singers, he found the Thrasher Brothers. Right. The Thrasher Brothers came and they found me. Well, we didn't find each other. We knew each other all the time. But they brought the idea to me. And everything was smooth sailing, man, after that. It was history.
Now, and Clyde was overseas, so he knew David was back there performing. He knew, obviously.
Well, but he didn't know David was going to be the one to take his place. He didn't know that.
Right.
But he found out later that the group was still singing, going on, doing the songs that was recorded. And he found, he knew Little Dave, but he didn't know Little Dave was going to be the one that was going to take his place.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Clyde,
and don't you know that Clyde would come home on leave from the Army, and he would still work with us all the time, thinking that he would be back with the group, but he never did come back.
Is that right?
We even did some recording with him while he was in service. He'd come back and do some recording. You know, it was great. You know, just a great thing.
That's amazing, Bill. When you think about that and how you end up in certain locations, Clyde, I mean, he was part of the reason you were up there and stuck it out with Atlantic Records and got started with them. But then to think about him taking off and somebody as amazing as David stepping in there in his place, I mean, what amazing coincidence.
Oh, yes. Well, you know, when little Dave stepped in, he stayed there for a little while, and this is something that I never like to talk about. Well, you know, a kid getting the break and going out singing before these big, huge audience, and, you know, they're screaming and carrying on, and he got to the place where he couldn't wear a hat anymore because his head got too big. He was hard to handle. So I finally had to get rid of him. Then he had a few drinks, you know, and like I said, I never like to talk about this, but it really true. This is what happened. So one day we was playing in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Circle Theater. So, you know, like doing the breaks, doing animation, I decided that I would go down to the men's room. And as I walked in the men's room, I heard this voice. I heard a young man in there singing. He just, you know, just carried on, you know. And, you know, the best place, you know, you can enjoy. If you're trying to sing, you either try to sing in the shower in the men's room or so, you know. I said, boy, that cat sounds good, man, you know. Yeah. So I walk up to him when I got in there. I said, hey, man, I said, you sound very good. I said, do you sing? He said, I tried to. I have a little group here called the Hornets. I said, right here? I said, how would you like to audition for the Drifters? He said, oh, get out of here, man. He said, you kidding me, you know? And he didn't believe me, you know. I said, I said, I'm serious. I'm serious. Well, and the reason why I asked him that, this is the time that I was having the problems out of little David. I was having serious problems out of him. So he said, well, if you're serious, he said, man, I would be glad to audition for you. And I said, well, this is our closing night here at the theater. I said, we're leaving tomorrow for Atlanta, Georgia. I said, if you would like to audition, you know, be ready to leave with us tomorrow. I don't have time to stay here to audition you because we got to open up in Atlanta the next day. So sure enough, we went by his aunt house, or his sister. He's from Alabama, the young man that I wanted to audition. So he was ready to go. He went by there, and on our way down to Atlanta, little David, he was just so knocked out. You know, he woke up about midday. We left early that morning, about 7, 8 o'clock, leaving out of Cleveland, Ohio, going to Atlanta. So little David woke up in the car, you know, look over and say, who is this guy here? I said, boy, that's your replacement.
You said it, Bill.
Yeah, just like that. So little Dave, he didn't even pay that no attention. He just went on back to sleep, you know. So when he finally woke up and got himself together, he said, what did you say? I said, yeah, that's your replacement. And that guy turned out to be one of the greatest singers that we ever had in the group, other than Clyde McFadden. He was one of the greatest. He laid under the boardwalk. I've got sand in my shoes. Saturday night at the movie. And that guy was Johnny Moore.
That's amazing.
And Johnny was great. He was a great singer. So these are the things that I had to do when Clyde McFadden went in service. Find a replacement and keep the group going. And it was good to me.
That is amazing, Bill.
I enjoyed it.
Before we started, Bill, I told you I had a list of questions.
Yes.
You said, Greg, you don't need to go over questions. Just ask me a couple.
But I want you to go over everyone.
Absolutely. No, you won't believe it. 15 minutes have passed.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to get you back on another time. You'll be blown away. It's we're excited about this weekend.
Yeah.
Sunday's getting close. There are going to be a heck of a lot of folks out there to cheer you and Maurice and Billy Scott and so many others on. We just appreciate you taking the time this morning to be with us.
Well, I got news for you. I just want to say to all of my fans who have been listening around for the Drifters for so many years, I just want to say to you, thank you, God bless you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 16th.
Absolutely. We're with a true legend, Bill Pinkney. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're focused on the legends of beach music presented by the Long Bay Symphony this Sunday at Myrtle Beach High School. We're visiting with Paul Craver of the Men of Distinction.
That's
Paul,
correct.
thanks so much for being with us this morning.
My pleasure being here.
Incredible opportunity all week to highlight a big event. Obviously having Bill Pinkney on moments ago to kick off the morning and you wrapping up the morning. All week we've just been trying to highlight so much that goes into planning for a big event, to highlight three amazing musical legends, Bill Pinkney, Maurice Williams, and Billy Scott.
Sure.
But to think about you and your life and wanted to get you in to help the viewers understand a little more about beach music. Can we talk about yourself?
Sure.
Are you originally from the area?
I'm originally from Greensboro, North Carolina, which was kind of pretty much in the heart of beach music. And at the present time, I live in Myrtle Beach.
Okay. How long have you been in Myrtle?
I've been there a little over a year. Always wanted to be there.
Yeah, I was about to say, what prompted you to be down there? Had that been a lifelong thought? Or?
Oh, yes. I've always liked the beach ever since I've been going since the 60s. Always had a great time and loved beach music. And I said, I'm going to live right where it's at.
Where were you before moving to the beach?
I lived in Sumter, South Carolina for quite a few years. And then, like I said, just moved down there about a little over a year ago.
Paul, how long have you been in the music industry?
I've been in the business a good 30 years, since 1972 to be exact.
Okay. Was there anything that got you in originally, anything that prompted you to get in?
Sure. Well, actually, I played trumpet going to school.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, I stopped in the ninth grade. I didn't want to be in the high school band, which I should kick myself for not doing that because of the education.
Right.
But once I become old enough to go to the nightclubs, the Castaways in Greensboro was a major nightclub to offer the top entertainment. And I got hooked on that, watching the bands there, watching them perform, and watching how the people reacted. And I said, I've got to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So
that must be an exciting feeling.
Oh, yes. I've been doing it ever since.
To see that and perform. And what's that like, Paul, on a weekly or a nightly or on a regular basis, getting up in front of a crowd, knowing all these folks are really tuning to you and the music you're playing? It must be real cathartic.
Oh, sure. It's you do it. Actually, what we do it for the love of it. The buzz, the high you get, entertaining people, getting response, just like anybody enjoys appreciation for what they do. But it's I wouldn't do anything else. Well, I do something else, but I enjoy entertaining.
Well, I was about to ask, are you involved in any other business other than the music industry?
As a matter of fact, I have my ceramic tile business in Myrtle Beach where we contract ceramic tile work. I have a showroom where people can select tile. But yes, the ceramic tile business and the band started exactly at the same time.
What year was that, Paul?
1972.
Okay, yeah. So it's been the Men of Distinction since 72?
No, actually, we started the Men of Distinction has been around for years and years. They were a hot band out of Dunn, North Carolina, back in the 60s, in the early 70s. And actually, they disbanded over 20 years ago. And I've been performing with several groups, and it seems like each group we had a fair amount of success. But in 1993, when my partner and I decided to split, I took the band with me, and that's when we changed the name to Men of Distinction, which was suggested by all the booking agents around. And the name fits us well, and we've been recording ever since.
Was your first gig in 1972, or that's when you actually got in?
1972 was my first gig, and I can remember the first song I played, and I'll never forget it.
Yeah, well, tell us. What was the name of that first song, and the name of the group then was?
The group was called Medium Cool.
Medium Cool.
Everybody seemed to name their bands after the weather there. And we, my first night on stage, my first song that I played was Just Ask the Lonely by the Four Tops.
Wow.
And I knew from that point I was hired as a trumpet player. But I couldn't stay away from the microphone. I wanted to talk on the microphone, and eventually I became a singer. And so I knew from that first night that I was going to be a front man.
Wow. Paul, what was your first big hit? When people think of you and Paul Craver, whether it's with Men of Distinction now, right, or with, did you say Medium Cool? Medium Cool, forgive me. I'm thinking so many names all week about so many highlighted, and with names changing, sure, people being in multiple bands. My
next band, we had a major hit. It was #1 at the beach. And now I was a horn player for that group. The band was called Cannonball, and the song that we recorded in '73 was called You Keep Telling Me Yes, which we sold thousands of copies just at the beach. But my first big hit that I actually sang was in 1983, which was, the song was called Mr. Beach. And so it's been happening from that point on, the recording and me singing.
Now, how are you able to do the ceramic tile business, which you've been going on for more than 30 years now, as well as perform on a regular basis? The schedules of performers are harried.
It is. But like I said, we do this, musicians know, we do this for the love of it. And with me having my own business, which makes me a little bit more flexible to leave, I have my jobs worked out, and I have good people with me. So.
What kind of selections are you performing now? The Men of Distinction perform what in particular? If someone was coming to see Men of Distinction for the first time, what would they be hearing?
It all depends on what type function that we play.
Okay.
We do a few clubs, but we do a lot of weddings. We do a lot of corporate. And you will hear from the Men of Distinction anywhere from Frank Sinatra to Leonard Skinner. And, of course, in between, a great deal of beach music. We just got such a wide variety. We try to cover all bases.
Do y'all record albums on a regular basis, Paul?
We usually record every couple of years. As a matter of fact, this is one year that we're not recording as a group, but I'm in the process and in the studio as we speak recording a solo album.
Is that right? Will that be have you even come about what a title would be or how you position yourself?
Possibly.
Right.
Usually when you name a CD album, as we call it, there may be a title within the song. Sometimes not. As our last CD in the Men of Distinction, it was called Down South Jukin'. There was not a song on there called Down South Jukin'. We had thought about recording one named that, but we did not. But we liked the name, so we used it, and the title of the CD kind of fit the repertoire that we had on there, because it was a lot of boogie music and sounded pretty southern.
What were some of the titles on Down South Jukin'?
The first cut was called Matchbox, which is in the top 40 now. Another cut was called Bees That Way Sometimes, which is in the top 40. And Good Rockin' Tonight, which is an old standard. Don't Be Afraid, Uptown, an old classic by Roy Orbison, and just titles like that.
Paul, when you think of new projects that you've got going on, the primary big project now is that solo album.
Exactly.
Are there other projects that you're involved in on a regular basis, or projects that go on, long projects that are different volumes of a certain piece you've done in the past?
Well, in preparation for a CD, it will take you several months, depending on how flexible you are to record. I will have my new CD out by what we call SOS in Myrtle Beach. That's when a lot of the groups feature their new music. And I'm going to be involved in a few other compilations with other groups, me performing as a vocalist.
Okay. Were you in Columbia, Paul, when beach music was recognized as South Carolina's official music?
I was right there, smack dab in the middle of it. As a matter of fact, myself, Maurice Williams, Billy Scott, John McElrath, and Drink Small, we actually did an a cappella thing there for the Senate, the the Democrats and the Republicans, and we sang right behind the governor as he proclaimed beach music the official music of South Carolina.
That is amazing.
So, and we were called we were labeled as the Carolina Legends.
Carolina Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully someday there'll be a Long Bay Symphony performance down the road. I think this weekend's event should be a big success, so that they'll do something in the future. But Carolina Legends,
sure,
because there are folks that travel in from all over the area that know those names, can't forget those names, and will be hearing those names for many years to come.
Exactly.
Why do you think it's so important for that kind of recognition for the state of South Carolina to have gotten beach music as its official music?
Beach music, fun music, party, the state dance, the shag, all that goes hand in hand. And people my age, which in their 50s, we grew up to this. And it's a great tradition. It's clean fun. And we're trying to instill this within our children. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to carry it on, because it's people have heard about this throughout the world. They may not know exactly what it is, but they know that beach music, you shag to it.
You heard Paul Craver say it. Beach music, fun music, good, clean fun, something you want to train your children up with. And you see it when the men of distinction perform.
Exactly.
Paul, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Don't forget, Myrtle Beach High School Auditorium, this Sunday, 7 o'clock, 3 beach music legends perform in concert with the Long Bay Symphony. You better call ahead for tickets. Call 843-448-8379.